Most people don't lose because they lack intelligence. They lose because they're addicted to being liked. Let that sit for a second. Being liked is comfortable. It feels safe. It feels socially intelligent. It feels mature. But being liked is not the same as being respected. And if you confuse the two, you quietly hand over control of your life to people who are more strategic than you. Nice people smooth things over. Nice people explain themselves. Nice people adjust their tone so no one feels uncomfortable. Nice people apologize for things that don't require apologies. Strategic people do something different. They observe tension. They allow silence. They let discomfort do the work. And here's the part nobody wants to admit. Most niceness is not virtue. It's fear disguised as morality. It's fear of disapproval, fear of conflict, fear of being misunderstood, fear of losing approval. You tell yourself you're being mature, but what if you're just avoiding friction? Nice people avoid tension. Strategic people control tension. That's the difference. If I watched you in a room for 10 minutes, I wouldn't need your resume. I wouldn't need your credentials. I would just watch how quickly you adjust to others, how fast you fill silence, how often you soften your words, how quickly you defend yourself when challenged. And from that alone, I could measure your leverage. So, here's the real question. Who benefits from your niceness? You or the people who push you, test you, and quietly take advantage of your predictability? Because predictability is comfort for other people, but unpredictability that creates caution, and caution creates respect. Now, let me make something very clear. This is not about becoming cruel. This is not about becoming aggressive. This is not about turning into someone bitter or hostile. This is about behavioral calibration. It's about shifting from moral thinking to strategic thinking. You don't need to change your personality. You need to change your positioning. Niccolo Machiavelli understood something most people still resist today. Power does not respond to good intentions. It responds to perception, access, and timing. Control perception, control access, control timing, and you control the frame. In this video, I'm going to break down 7 psychology shifts that move you from approval seeker to position controller. These are not surface-level tips. These are structural upgrades in how you move, speak, respond, and design your reputation. 7 upgrades that increase leverage without aggression. 7 shifts that separate the agreeable from the influential. 7 moves that turn nice into measured, intentional, and strategically dangerous. But before we go for detailed analysis, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I choose leverage. Number 1, stop seeking psychological safety. There is a silent addiction most people never confront. It is not addiction to pleasure. It is not addiction to money. It is addiction to psychological comfort. The need for conversations to stay smooth. The need for rooms to feel relaxed. The need for every exchange to end without tension. That instinct feels mature, but it quietly strips away influence. When you prioritize comfort over positioning, you train yourself to shrink. You avoid statements that may challenge someone. You soften truths that need clarity. You hesitate before expressing boundaries because you fear friction. And every time you do that, you reinforce a dangerous pattern. You place emotional safety above strategic advantage. High V-value A individuals understand something different. Discomfort is not a threat. It is a tool. Tension reveals hierarchy. It reveals confidence. It reveals who is willing to stand firm when pressure rises. The moment an interaction becomes slightly uncomfortable, most people rush to relieve it. They laugh, they clarify, they overcompensate, they apologize, they dilute their stance, and in doing so, they lower their status. The person who remains steady during tension controls the temperature of the room. Think about it. When someone challenges you directly, what is your instinct? Do you rush to defend? Do you immediately explain? Do you try to smooth the situation? Or do you pause, hold eye contact, and let silence stretch just long enough to make your presence felt? Psychological safety is often code for avoiding risk, but leverage is built through controlled risk. When you allow a moment of friction to exist without scrambling to fix it, something shifts. People reassess you. They recalibrate. They begin to measure their words more carefully. Not because you raised your voice, not because you became hostile, but because you did not retreat. Power frequently sits on the other side of unease. You must retrain your nervous system to tolerate that edge. The slight tightening in the air when you speak directly. The pause after you disagree. The stillness after you set a boundary. Those moments are not threats to your image. They are upgrades to your authority. Comfort-seeking behavior keeps you agreeable. Advantage-seeking behavior keeps you respected. This does not mean manufacturing conflict. It means refusing to escape it prematurely. It means recognizing that growth requires controlled exposure to tension. The moment you stop trying to make every environment feel pleasant, you begin to feel grounded, and grounded people are difficult to move. So ask yourself honestly, how many times have you avoided unnecessary statement just to keep the atmosphere light? How many times have you left something off that deserved correction? How often have you chosen peace over positioning? Each time you did, you protected temporary harmony, ignoring long-term influence. From now on, you operate differently. You do not chase comfort. You evaluate outcomes. If allowing a moment of discomfort increases clarity, you allow it. If holding steady strengthens your position, you hold. This is not aggression. It is composure under pressure. When you stop needing every interaction to feel safe, you start becoming someone others approach carefully, and careful treatment is the beginning of respect. Number 2. Detach from immediate approval. There is a powerful force that quietly shapes behavior more than logic ever will. It is not intelligence, it is not discipline, it is the craving for validation, the desire to be accepted right now. The need for nods, smiles, reassurance, agreement. That impulse feels human, but when it controls you, it turns you into a puppet. Approval at the instant feels rewarding. It releases tension. It gives you a sense of belonging. But dependence on approval makes you adjustable. And adjustable people are easy to position. When you need positive feedback immediately, your decisions become compromised. You soften statements to avoid pushback. You tailor opinions to match the room. You hesitate to contradict someone who holds status. You calculate your words based on how they will be received instead of whether they are aligned with your objectives. Influence cannot develop while holding constant validation. Strategic individuals understand something crucial. Respect is often delayed. Authority is rarely comfortable in the beginning. When you speak with conviction, not everyone will agree. When you enforce standards, not everyone will applaud. When you refuse to bend for instant harmony, some people will feel challenged. That is not loss, that is filtration. The need for immediate approval creates predictability. Others quickly learn how to manage you. They discover what earns your smile, what earns your silence, what earns your retreat. And once that pattern is recognized, your leverage decreases. Detachment from instant validation changes your posture. You stop scanning faces for reassurance. You stop adjusting your tone to chase approval. You stop measuring your value by reaction speed. Instead, you measure by positioning. There's a powerful shift that happens when you accept being temporarily misunderstood, when you speak clearly and allow others to process without rushing to repair your image, when you state your stance and resist the urge to justify it excessively, when you prioritize long-term perception over momentary applause. That is maturity. Long-term positioning requires tolerance for friction. The person who can endure discomfort without scrambling to regain acceptance is the person who slowly gains authority. Ask yourself honestly, how often do you check the emotional temperature of the room before speaking? How often do you adjust your delivery to avoid disapproval? How often do you feel unsettled when someone disagrees with you? Every one of those reactions is a signal. It shows where your need for approval still holds power. Freedom begins when validation becomes optional. When you detach from the hunger for instant agreement, something shifts internally. You become more deliberate, more centered, more composed. You stop negotiating your standards for applause. You begin operating from alignment instead of reaction. And ironically, that is when respect starts to increase. Because people trust those who do not constantly seek reassurance. They trust individuals who remain steady without fishing for affirmation. They respect those who can hold a position calmly, even if it creates silence. You are not here to be universally approved. You are here to build leverage. I want you to express this affirmation in the comments. I don't chase approval. When validation no longer controls your behavior, your presence changes. And when your presence changes, the way people respond to you changes with it. Number 3. Shift from reaction to delay. Most people believe that quick responses signal intelligence, confidence, dominance. In reality, instant reactions often reveal impulsiveness. When someone challenges you and you fire back immediately, you expose your emotional wiring. When pressure rises and you respond without pause, you surrender control of tempo. Tempo is power. The one who controls timing controls direction. Impulsive responses are predictable. They show your triggers, they show your pressure points. They show exactly where you can be influenced. If someone understands it, they can provoke an immediate reply from you. They know they can steer you. Delay disrupts that pattern. When you introduce a pause, you create uncertainty. And uncertainty shifts the psychological balance. The other person begins to wonder what you're thinking. They begin to reconsider their position. They start to replay what they said. Silence becomes a mirror, forcing them to face their own words. This is not passive behavior. It is controlled pacing. Think about the last time someone made a bold statement in your presence. Did you instantly correct them? Did you jump in to defend yourself? Did you rush to prove something? That urgency may have felt powerful, but it likely reduced your leverage. Strategic delay does 3 things simultaneously. First, it gives you space to assess. You evaluate the situation from above instead of inside it. You observe tone, intention, subtext. You choose a response based on outcome, not emotion. Second, it shifts psychological pressure outward. When you do not immediately respond, the other person begins to fill the silence mentally. Doubt increases. Curiosity increases. Sometimes even insecurity increases. Third, it reinforces composure. Calm timing communicates internal stability. It signals that you are not easily moved. The majority of people operate on reflex. They answer texts instantly. They respond to criticism instantly. They defend themselves instantly. They make decisions instantly. And because they operate at that speed, they're easy to anticipate. Introduce delay, and you become harder to read. This does not mean ignoring everything. It means choosing when to speak. It means resisting.